Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the STEM Files on OMSTV. We are no longer on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Shaheed Muhammad, Chairman and Chief Science Officer of Original Man Scientific. I'm also serving as the Interim Student Minister of Science and Technology for the Nation of Islam. I'm usually joined by my co-host, the right-hand man and second mind. His name is Jabril Muhammad, Materials Engineer. He's also the Vice Chairman of Original Man Scientific. He goes by Jabrillion Engineer. We're doing the show. I always thought that was catchy. But he's not with us tonight. It's just me flying solo. We're kind of taking turns because the last time we did the show, it was just him. So I'm not going to speak any further. I'm going to welcome my guest, Brother Shaheed. How you doing, sir?
Doing well. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us tonight, man. So if you could please go into a little bit about yourself, what area of STEM you're in, and what you're looking to do with your career.
Okay. My name is Shaheed Muhammad, like you just said. I'm 23 years old. I graduated from Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, with an electrical engineering degree about 2 years ago, May 2016. And since then, I've been working as a system integration engineer. And ultimately, with my career, I'm looking to move into the power and energy sector of electrical engineering. But there's a lot that I want to get into with my career.
Awesome. When you say that you went to HBCU, right?
Yes, sir.
And there are a lot of students there that major in engineering, correct?
Yes, sir.
So what was it about engineering that was like, okay, this is what I want to do, and this is what I see myself doing for the rest of my life?
I think that's a great question. That's really like a twofold part question, because it's so many different reasons that I chose engineering. The main thing is that I thought that I would be educated into how to design and create things, because I mean, that's the whole point of life in general, is that if you have a vision or an idea in your head, knowing how to actually manifest that into reality is something that I sought after. And in truth, I was inspired by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to become an engineer, because he encouraged that amongst the youth, because he knows that is science and technology, engineering, architecture. These things is what a autonomous society is built upon, right? Is with minds in science and technology and engineering. So that's kind of why I chose to do that. And as I move forward and advance in my career, I see that there's so many different, facets and aspects to a person, and engineering is just one of them.
Right. And so yours is specifically electrical engineering. What was it about electrical that was like, okay, out of all the disciplines that you find in engineering, electrical engineer is the one I want to
pursue
and participate in?
Yeah, for me, it was because of I was studying power and energy in high school. I think that's when I first kind of came along that concept or that category of life, and seeing the necessity in it, seeing how everything that we do in the modern world is based upon our access to power and energy. So without that, we can't, without our availability to power and energy, the world that we know today would cease to exist.
Right.
Power enables all of our buildings to be alive, to be useful. It enables transportation, communication, and really everything that we're accustomed to in this modern day and age. Is what kind of propels us past the Stone Age. So I've seen the necessity in that for people who want to move forward in building, a new independent nation. That's a requirement, a necessity.
Absolutely. When you were in college, were there any forms of deterrence to keep you away from a major that you can apply, rather than pursuing a major that you really couldn't do anything with? Were there anything that deterred you from that, or anything that tried to persuade you in a different direction?
Yes, sir. I think there was, and I think most of it comes before you enter college with the preconceived concept of a degree or mindset for a specific degree. There's a lot of deterrence. There's doubt. you know, because engineering is difficult, it's tough initially, especially a lot of Black men and women in America are not ever seen examples of Black engineers, so they don't believe in themselves that they have the ability to complete, you know, an engineering degree. So doubt is one going in. There's people that will tell you not to do it. There's maybe friends and family or just people you come into contact with that tell you to, you know, pick something easier. Are you sure you can do that? Mm-hmm. And those sorts of things. And then there's, once you're in college, there's a lot of distractions that can steer you away from picking a good major like that. So so that you may settle on an easier major. You know, in college, there's a lot of different people that you meet in different fields, and often because we can do so many different things, and we kind of, it's hard to settle on one thing. You say, man, I don't know if I just want to be one thing for the rest of my life. And when you don't have the requisite focus in this, it can be hard to finish an engineering degree. So you may want to settle on something that's easier. But if you do just focus in and you can accomplish it, and then in truth, after graduation, you can become something totally different. So there's definitely deterrence, but I think coming in with a focused mindset that's stern and confirmed in your initial disposition will see you regardless of all the different distractions, because there's a lot of them.
Got it. So what are the top 5, or not even 5, but what are just the top challenges that a student studying engineering would face in college?
Top 5. I know maybe the main one is work ethic. You got to be able to work through the difficulties that emerge intellectually and in your environment. You just have to keep pushing through. And that kind of leads into the second part, which is the actual subject matter. You know, when you're dealing with engineering, you're pretty much dealing with applied mathematics into solving a problem and creating a solution. That's what it's all about. So you have to have a solid foundation in math, first off, and then also science. So I think those are the main 2 things. And like I said, there's distractions in college, and there's a lot of things that will emerge, but I think those kind of are just consistent with going to college in general. But specifically in engineering, I believe that having the requisite work ethic is necessary, and having that solid foundation in math and science.
Now, when you began studying engineering in school, were there any weaknesses that you had in terms of studying and being diligent with everything that you were learning? And then did you see those things kind of fade away as you progressed in your major? Or are some of those things kind of still there and you're working your way around them?
Yeah, for me, I was kind of blessed to have an opportunity before my first semester to go into a summer program where we were put with a whole bunch of incoming freshmen that were going to be in the same engineering program. And we had like an engineering boot camp type of program where they really drilled us hard and solidified our foundation in math. And also they instilled in us the requisite work ethic that we needed to get through. And it was brutal, man. It was tough. They didn't let us sleep at night, like at all. They forced us to stay up all night long for like 6 weeks straight.
Oh my God.
Doing math problems and studying all types of science courses and all that. And a lot of people, you know, they just rebelled from the discipline, and they didn't seek, they really didn't experience the benefit of that program because they didn't really submit to it. But me personally, I was, I kind of just went in, you know, with a fresh mentality that I'm just going to, I'll submit to this program. I'll submit to this, these rules and everything that they have set up. And because of that, I gained so much from that program. So by the time we all went into our freshman year, we were ready. And I was able to get a 4.0 my first semester and second semester, my freshman year of college, just because my first year was actually easier than the summer program. In terms of the time management and all these different things, we kind of it was instilled in us that how much we needed to study to be successful. So I definitely did have flaws and errors in a lot of different categories, and I still do, and I'm trying to work through some of them. my foundation in math was not at all where it needed to be going into that summer program. But because of the summer program, I kind of were able to hammer out some of the holes in it, or some of the weaknesses I had, and really basic categories of math that in my high school I just didn't get a good grasp of. But by the time the summer program was over, I was able to go through Calc 1 pretty easily my first semester. And the way my school curriculum was set up, you needed to be in Calc 1 your first semester of college to graduate in 4 years. So because of that summer program, I was on time and I had the foundation I needed in math to move forward. And also time management, if I didn't mention that so far, is another critical aspect of college because it's all on you. I mean, it's completely different from high school in that you don't have to be anywhere at any time. I mean, you can skip class if you want to, but you have to deal with the consequences directly. So knowing how to budget your time, to have enough free time to relax, clear your mind, maybe hang out with your friends or whatever, but also having the time management to do all your chores, clean up your room, get the food that you need, eat, study, wake up for all your classes, and all that is essential. So I think the summer program helped me with those two categories the most. And I didn't really start to see some of my flaws until later, like sophomore year, and specifically I think junior and senior year the most was I kind of started to deviate from the discipline that I had because I was going through college pretty easily. So I don't know, maybe I got too arrogant or undisciplined or whatever, and I started to relapse a little bit. But I was still able to graduate from with a 3.8 or a 3.78 cumulative GPA because I did maintain a discipline throughout. But had I been as laser focused as I was freshman year, I think I could have maintained that 4.0 all the way through. So staying focused is critical, and that's what I'm kind of trying to stay focused on. Well, staying focused is what I'm trying to stay focused on after graduation, because in the real world, there's so much more distractions that are there.
Right. You spoke about submitting to a process. If you observe anything in science or anything in engineering, whatever steps it takes to complete a certain reaction or to build a certain object, each step submits to that process. So how important is it for someone who is pursuing a career in STEM to submit to the process and not fight or give resistance to something that can be good for them in the long run?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it. If you want to get through STEM and you want to be successful in it, then you have to submit to the law of that category or field of study that you're in. It's all about learning laws. That's what it's all about. Especially like biology and physics, you're just learning about processes. In physics, you're learning about the actual laws that uphold the universe, that everything in existence submits to. That's what physics is all about. In biology, you're literally just learning about organisms and the systems that govern those bodies. So you have to each system has a set of rules that it adheres to and it submits to. So when learning about it, you have to submit to a system that will enable you to learn it in its fullest sense. If that kind of makes sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, like, for example, getting through a lot of math courses, it's essential that you just submit to the notation that things are written in. So a lot of people, I think, get lost in math and confused when they don't understand what the notation is. So notation is the symbols and everything that codes the math, the language that it's in.
Right.
And a lot of people, they have the logical brain to get through it, to understand it and to master it, but because they don't know the notation, they can't get through the course in its totality. Really, they struggle with it just because they don't understand the language. But if they took time and just submitted to the actual steps that are laid out in the math course, they'd be able to get through. And I think that kind of applies to anything. If you want to be great at something, you have to be able to give up your will for the higher system that's in place and submit to it, and then gradually grow into harmony with the system in place.
What do you think are some of the reasons why it is so difficult for most Black students who are pursuing STEM to submit to these processes?
I think a lot of Black people in America pursuing STEM suffer because they've never been exposed to the proper knowledge of self, and they don't know their own true capacity and potential. So when they're learning about anything in STEM, they're always taught of some white physicist or mathematician who created this, who discovered this. But in reality, we as original people on this planet have been doing mathematics, science, and studying biology since before if you study the ancient pyramids and Kemet and all this, then this is that what I just said becomes self-evident, because these pyramids and different ancient civilizations around the world go back way further than 6,000 years since the first trace of the white civilization existed on our planet. And these civilizations are highly advanced and indicative of a people who had a very thorough understanding of mathematics, of astronomy, of chemistry, and biology. And we can learn that just from looking and analyzing the remnants of the civilizations they left. So once we learn who we are, then we will have a lot more intrinsic fundamental confidence in the pursuit. I remember once listening to a speech from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that he gave in Bowie, I believe in 2012 or 2013. I think it was 2012. My first semester, I was actually struggling in my biology class, and he gave a lecture, and he addressed directly to that point. And he was like, how could you struggle? Well, this is paraphrasing. He was like, how can you not master biology? You are biology. Like you are physics. You are a people who have a history of mastering these things and building a world based upon this. So we were able to learn about, I think, Black scientists, Black engineers, Black astronomers, like Emotep, and people like this, then we would have a lot more confidence in the way that we approached mathematics and science, because that's what it's all about. Your approach to it. You got to approach it as a master. You can't say, oh man, because I know people that I went to school with that were just as intelligent as me, but because they had doubt in their mind about certain courses, their doubt eventually grew beyond their ability to overcome it. So they just submitted to their doubt in a sense that, oh no, I can't do this. This is too challenging for me, and they suffered in the course. But me, even if I messed up on an assignment, or even if I didn't pass a quiz, I would still go harder, because I knew intrinsically I can master this, because I've been acquainted with the knowledge that I just spoke of. I know for a fact that, my ancestors were great and they've done this before, so I know that I can do it again.
Beautiful answer. I was blessed to experience a lot of what you're speaking of in terms of seeing the greatness in Black scientists and engineers, especially when I've watched that watched the movie Hidden Figures, and I thought that was just an incredible, well, not revelation. I just thought it was a good movie to play out, because it goes into the large amount of Black people that go unrecognized or unacknowledged because of the color of their skin. So I want to thank you for touching on that, because there's really no greater feeling than when you are pursuing a STEM degree and you find somebody Black who has paved the way or done something significant in your area of study. For me, it was Daniel Hill Williams. He was the first Black man to perform not open heart surgery, but a operation that is close to the heart in a way. He operated on the sac that protects the heart, the pericardium. And when I originally found out about him, I wanted to make every part of my life around, learning more stuff about him.
Right.
He's definitely one of the men, along with George Washington Carver and anybody in the life sciences or the medical sciences, that have really not only opened my eyes, but inspired me more to pursue and continue to pursue what I'm doing. So thank you so much for that, man.
Yes, sir. I think that's it. Like a movie like Hidden Figures. I mean, that information was available the whole time, but we're just now finding out about it.
Right.
So when we just find out more about the truth, then our reality will change. Because I think my mom was saying that she said if she would have seen that as a child, her whole life would be different. You know, to see black women who were human computers. So yeah, we just need to really be acquainted with the knowledge of self. And I think that with the infinite power of self, and I think that our whole reality will change. And I think mathematics, science, and engineering is a critical, pivotal aspect of manifesting a new reality, because, like I said, that's what a world is based upon. So I think that, that'll really, when that becomes cool, or when that becomes attractive to our people, then I think we'll really see a substantial change, and I'll see change, and we will see change happening exponentially.
Yeah. So, the topic of today's show is around the world with engineering. And the focus really is to pinpoint and talk about the issues that we see around the world that can be solved with engineering, or problems that are directly related to engineering. So what are some of the things that you see, just starting here in the United States? What are some of the problems that you see related to engineering, especially in the Black community?
Okay. Man, there's so many problems in the world, that, and all of them can be solved with science and engineering. Well, I think what predates the main thing to me that's more important than science and engineering is the proper acquaintance of people with spirituality. So not necessarily religion, but a thorough teaching of themselves, and the necessity for us all to work together in harmony, and us doing things that are morally correct. Once that is established, then all the problems that we face as a people worldwide would go away. Once everybody loves to love their brother and sister as they love themselves, then most of the problems we have would vanish overnight. And science and technology would then be the vehicle to implement those teachings. So I think the main thing that always jumps to mind is, as the first thing, is energy, clean water, and food. Those three things, I think those are the main problems in the world. And I think those are all reversible if the right people were in power. So if we look at technology, for example, in communications, we see that it's been evolving very rapidly. So, the old cell phones, like the first cell phones that came out like 20 years or so ago, they were huge, block type things that you hold to your ear, and it would give you cancer in like 3 days. Mm-hmm. We have little cell phones that we hold in our hands that were more powerful than entire desktops a few years ago. It's been evolving very rapidly. But if we look at energy production, it hasn't evolved in centuries. We're still working and dealing with fossil fuels for the most part that produce the majority of the energy in the United States, and really still throughout the whole world. And this is actually by design. The energy industry has not evolved tactically, because that's one of the most powerful industries in the world. And because of corporate interests by certain corrupt individuals and families and organizations, they have kind of monopolized the energy infrastructure and power system throughout the whole world. Because I believe that free, not necessarily free, but cheap, affordable energy should be and could be available to every citizen in the world. But if that happened, that would kind of disrupt the power structure that we currently have in the world. So the people who are in power do not want that to happen. But the technology has existed for a long time, and many scientists and engineers throughout the world have come up with different inventions and technologies that would revolutionize the energy industry. But a lot of that technology has been suppressed and undermined. So that's always number one for me, is the first thing that jumps up. Because if we had an energy revolution, really in America and throughout the world, that would really change the world overnight. It would change everything. It would change the way we travel, both domestically and foreign travel. It would change. It would enable so many other technologies and different capacities to function. Another thing is water. Clean water is a serious problem in America and throughout the world. Clean water is definitely a problem in a lot of third world countries where people don't have access to really any clean water. But it's also a problem in America as a lot of the water is polluted, with different chemicals, fluoride and others. And then we see things like Flint, Michigan. So that's one thing. And then the food industry as well. I see that as an engineering problem because with the right forms of engineering, you can create innovative styles of farming that would increase the yield significantly.
Right.
You could also, you don't need to use genetic engineering on food. You don't need genetically modified organisms with our food. And if we were to cut that out and then replace that with different forms of farming that would, increase the yields, then we could still get more and more food without the detrimental health effects from the genetically modified food. So I look at all these three critical components of life as engineering problems.
I usually do this at the beginning of the show, and this kind of my fault. When you're looking at the term engineering, what exactly are you talking about? For those who are listening and may be confused on certain engineering concepts, when you think about engineering, what exactly is it, and what about it is, and just the kind of the etymology, the word origin behind it. What about it brings it such importance to the development of a nation?
Right. Okay. So I'm not going to give a denotation. I'll just give you kind of what I think of when I hear the word. And then to me, it's engineering is when you have a problem, an ordeal, or a situation, and then you analyze that problem, and then through your analysis, you come up with a logical, thorough, thoughtful plan to overcome the obstacle. Mm-hmm. So if, for example, if our problem is we have dirty water, an engineering solution would be to analyze, what is wrong with the water. It has mercury in it, it has fluoride, it has all these different chemical and bacterial problems. So then I have to analyze, okay, how do I overcome this? How do I fix the problem? And then I design a solution for it. So I could design a reverse osmosis filter, and I can chemically treat the water in a certain way to eliminate all those viruses, bacteria, and take out the chemical toxins that is in that water. And that would be, and the solution that I presented, my design is what I perceive as engineering, that design process of building something. And I said the analysis of the problem, because in order to fix a chemical problem, you need a chemical solution. So you need to know chemistry. You got to study chemistry in detail and see, how do I actually fix this problem with science? Not just with an arbitrary type of quick solution, but a thorough analysis of the problem to create a substantial solution.
Engineering, that term is thrown around a lot. It's almost like the word love. People just use it just to use it. Do you think the term, the phrase genetic engineering is accurate? Just based on the definition and meaning that you gave for engineering, based on that, do you think when scientists or people kind of looking in from the outside use the word genetic engineering, that's an accurate term for what they're doing? Because to me, for someone that's in that area of biotechnology, working with molecules of living organisms and genetics, do you think that me saying, okay, this is genetic engineering, do you think that's a proper term for what they're doing with GMOs and everything like that?
I think the language is sound. I think it's a proper term and description, but I don't think that it's not good what they're doing in many cases, or most cases, if not all cases, when you're genetically engineering food, because I don't think that the scientists have the requisite knowledge that they need to be able to do that. They can't see the unforeseen consequences, and if they have seen it, they've utterly ignored it because there's so many studies that are out there that show the detrimental consequences of consuming genetically engineered food. So we know it's not healthy. So they've maintained genetically engineered food, but I think it's a proper term, but it's not necessarily a good thing. But I think it's a proper language. If that answers the question.
Right. So you're saying that it's the proper terminology. They're just not using it for good or intentions in our best interest. Is what you're saying?
Yes, it's they use they use the technology to increase their yields and the food's resistance to different bacterias and things like that make it a lot more profitable. So they are engineering solutions from an economic standpoint, but from a health and nutritional standpoint, it's very detrimental to the consumer. So it is genetically modifying and engineering things, but it's not to our benefit to the people that are eating it.
Absolutely. So when we're talking about problems related to engineering or solving problems with engineering, is there any particular problem that engineering cannot solve, or is engineering kind of is engineering in a universal tool to solve everything?
Wow, yeah,
it can be used for everything. I agree, but do you just based on analysis and just looking at certain problems, do you think that engineering can solve everything, or is it really necessary to use engineering for every issue?
That's a pretty good question. I think that the process of engineering is applicable in everything. So we know that, like I said before, the way I defined it, taking a problem, analyzing the problem, and then working through the solution in a tactical, logical, applicable manner. If we define that as engineering, then yes, we can further expand that to everything. But I think when it comes to a lot of the problems in the world we face with today, I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that most of the problems are spiritual problems within individual people. Corruption, selfishness, and hate are prevalent throughout our world, and these are mainly these aren't necessarily scientific problems or a lack of knowledge of science. This is mainly, I think, a lack of love embedded into societies, and especially the Western society that dominates the earth doesn't have really a basis in the proper spiritual or moral principles that would solve the problems. Because even without advancement in technology, the technology that currently exists in the world is enough for everybody to have is enough for everybody to have the benefit of that technology. There's no reason that people in Africa that have the most material resources in their country, in the whole world, like the Republic of Congo and all the different, mostly all the different countries in Africa are so rich in mineral resources, and then the technology exists to be able to extract those and then use that for the benefit of the people. But because the Western powers exploit Africa and are selfish fundamentally, and they take those resources for themselves, then the problem, and they exploit the people there, then that's the problem. It's not necessarily the lack of science that's the problem, but it's the individuals and their motives and their lack of morals and love for other people that causes the problem. So if we can engineer a spiritual revolution or a moral revolution in different people, then we can use engineering to solve a problem in the grander sense of the process of engineering. But I think a lot of problems are kind of spiritually based. But still science is applicable to everything, because a lot of people do things out of ignorance, and having a further understanding of people, of biology and of yourself would fix some of the problems I just mentioned. Even still.
Yeah, that's I definitely agree, man. A lot of And then it all goes back to submitting to things, man, because a lot of the basis of Islam is just to submit entirely to God, you know. And a lot of times if people could just submit to something, they will find themselves in a better place, spiritually, economically, you know, the whole personal spectrum. What do you say is a tool that people can use to not only increase their spirituality when it comes to submitting to something or being dedicated to something, but just what do you think scientists can do and students of science can do to incorporate spirituality while learning STEM and while being successful in their careers in STEM?
Okay, that's another really good question. People need to learn more, and people need to be humble in their analysis of things, because if you study, nature is the best teacher. I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he said that nature is the best teacher that we have. And if you see, if you observe nature, you observe creation from the smallest subatomic particle to the vastness of a of a galaxy, a cluster of galaxies. You see commonalities throughout each fractal of existence. So you see, almost as if you see the design or the signature of a creator everywhere. You can see it in the nature of everything. And when you see that, you can see yourself in other people, in a sense. You can see the grandness of the universe and how you're just one small aspect of it. Right. So the universe, it doesn't revolve around me or you. So it's existed, as we are taught, you know, by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, for 76 trillion years, I believe. So we, in our short lifespans, we're only here for, you know, the blink of an eye. So while we're here, we should want to make the world a better place. Why we're here, why we exist, because it's not going to be for a long time. So we should use whatever knowledge and wisdom that have amassed for the benefit of the whole. And as we said, science and technology is the best vehicle for that. That's one way. That's one way I look at it. I do a lot of introspection, and the more I learn about science and mathematics, the more I can learn about myself. Like you know, I graduated with an electrical engineering degree, but since then, I kind of been studying biology just independently, and I've just learned so much about myself that I can see, you know, the applicability of that in more aspects of life, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
So I think the more we know and the more we learn about nature, we can kind of see how things can harmonize and how we can use our knowledge to benefit the whole. I mean, we're divided. If you look at it, if you look at the world, we're divided country against country, state against state, neighborhood against neighborhood. And there's so much division that we design arbitrarily. But in reality, we all exist in a biosphere. Really, this is one world beyond the artificial nationality lines that we draw as people. Right. And we live in one universe. What happens on Mars affects what happens on Earth. The gravitational pull of Saturn and Jupiter affects the events that happen on Earth. The solar cycle of sunspots, the radiation that's sent off of the sun affects the Earth's atmosphere, which affects the weather, which affects what you and I do on a day-to-day basis. So this is really one universe that we all live in. So I think when we learn more about it, it teaches us how to harmonize with it, in a sense.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely agree, man. You know, we're actually coming towards July now, and we've completed pretty much more than half the year. What have been some things that that you've seen over the course of since January of this year in terms of engineering? What are some of the ideas or goals that you've come up with for yourself as you continue to grow in your career?
Ideas and goals. For me, it's all about, I'm kind of working to to make partnerships with people of like-mindedness, and with a certain capacity and skill set in engineering to kind of design some of the solutions to some of the problems I just mentioned. I mean, like we said, most of the tangible problems in the world have tangible solutions that we can build. So I've been studying water. Like I said before, what is clean water? What is healthy water? And how can we design a system that could give everybody, you know, in the world access to clean water? What type of energy system can I design to help power neighborhoods in my community off the grid and things like that? So that's kind of what I've been working on, but a lot of it is still in the research and development stage.
Perfect. So you have a YouTube channel, right?
Yes, sir.
What is your primary focus of your channel, and how can people find it and be educated by some of the great things that you have on there?
Okay, so my YouTube channel is I want it to be really diverse, and I want it to be a platform for me to share experiences and information. Mm-hmm. So last time I was on this show over the phone on the Blog Talk Radio, I spoke about electromagnetic radiation and how that affects human biology. So on my YouTube channel, I've done a 5-part series in which I've made videos teaching on that subject of everything that I shared over the phone with you all. And I'm about to release the last video, the 5th video, relatively soon, in like the next week or so, hopefully sooner. And now we'll kind of wrap up that. But I also have been sharing experiences as well. So I've kind of been traveling a lot in the past few months or so, and I've been kind of recording and documenting that and some of the things that I've learned from that. Because when you're able to travel to different places, it's a lot different than reading about it or hearing about it or anything like that. Actually experiencing something is the best way to learn. So I've been learning a lot and kind of been prompting to share that experience and that information with a lot of people. And also, there's a lot of subjects in science that I would like to share and teach on and learn more about, that I plan on making different videos in the future about different subjects, dealing with biology, physics, and all different manners of science and technology. So the channel should be really diverse and powerful as I further it along. It's still kind of toward its inception, but I definitely plan on pushing it further.
Great. Please let us know here at OMS is what we can do to help, man. I would love to contribute to your channel. I love seeing, especially young Black people, not just in the Nation of Islam, but just in general, documenting what they have or what they are doing in science, because no one else is going to document it. No one else is going to document the great things that Black people do in science, but Black people. You know, they're not sharing that on the news. Whenever you hear something about a Black person on the news, it's always negative, or always something going on, somebody either, you know, getting shot or something negative, you know. But to see that the Black scientists are taking and just Black people in general are taking the history that they make into their own hands is beautiful.
Right. So, yes, sir. And that's actually, I guess I failed to mention that. That's another one of the main driving points and focuses of the channel, is just to do that. I've kind of developed like skills as a filmmaker since graduation, just learning on my own. And that's kind of been the purpose of it, is to document positivity. I mean, we need to have our own media as a people, because the media we've been under, Western media, has done nothing positive for us. In truth, they said that social media has done more positive things for Black people than Western media has in centuries. Just a few years on social media, because we're all connected. I mean, on my phone, at any moment, I can scroll down and see channels like HBCU Buzz or different channels and pages like that on Instagram, where I can see thousands of people that look just like me graduating with engineering degrees, as doctors, as lawyers, and I have instant access to all this information, where I see that Black people are successful. Black fathers are striving to be there in their children's lives, and Black people are getting married and having strong relationships, and all these different false stereotypes that the media presents is just that. It is false. And with our own media, we have the ability to really change our reality. Because I think that is the main stronghold that the wicked have maintained their power, is through the minds of the people. So when we have different channels, you know, like the one we're currently on, and different people excelling with their own media, we're really reversing the programming that we've been afflicted to for a long time now as a people and as a world, really breaking free from the chains of slavery, of mental slavery all over the world.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. What's the channel?
The name of my channel is actually my name. So it is Shaheed Bashir Quahir. So SHAHEED BASHEER and QAHIR. Maybe I can make it a little shorter in the future.
So how can people find you on Instagram and social media?
My name on Instagram, that's pretty much the main social media that I'm on, is Kingheed. So KINGHEED and then an underscore. And yeah, I usually just send people the link for the channel, so I don't have them spell out the whole thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I got a lot of great videos coming up soon. Stay tuned for that.
Awesome. We'll definitely be providing the link in the description once the video is no longer live. Also, just we actually stopped doing this for a while. I think the last time we did this was the second installment on YouTube. We usually asked our guests on Blog Talk Radio what science means to them. And I remember your response to that. Can you share what science means to you and why like, say, for example, a young person came up to you and was like, Shaheed, why is science so important and why does it matter to you personally?
Okay. To me, science is the nature of the universe. So if you want to be a really good basketball player, you have to know the science of basketball. How does the game work? Its properties, the rules of the game, the laws of interaction. You can't travel, you have to dribble. You can't go over and back. That's a violation. First, you got to know the laws of it, and then you learn the nuances of the game. So you know the best move to do in a particular situation, the best what they call it, good shot selection. You got to know the game and know the properties. So that's pretty much learning the science of something, is learning the nature of it. So the universe that we live in, it all adheres to certain principles and certain laws that no one can escape from. So science is all about actually learning how the universe itself actually works. So that is obviously extremely important and significant in the lives of everyone. So a scientist is just someone who studies that in a particular field. So a chemist is a scientist who studies chemistry. They study the atoms and how atoms interact with each other. A physicist is pretty much the same thing at a different level of abstraction. A physicist studies how matter interacts with different matter and how energy and matter interact. And of course, biologist is someone who studies the nature of life and biological organisms and how they're composed, constructed, and how they interact with themselves and each other. So science is all about learning the nature of a thing.
Wonderful. So, as a matter of fact, we actually have a question from a sister out of Charlotte, North Carolina. You touched a little bit about what your future plans are in the STEM industry, but how will you combine your STEM background to help develop the Nation of Islam?
Hopefully in a lot of different ways. One thing that I've kind of focused on for a long time was power and energy, but in the Nation of Islam, we need help in a lot of different categories. So I wouldn't limit it to one thing. I know that that is an avenue that I can help work out in, is energy production and helping set up and design systems to make us energy independent, which is a requirement for us to be an autonomous nation like we aspire to be. That's one way, but we need so many different things. Any nation does, and there's no limit to science. And I'm not the type of person to put a lot of labels on myself, because I think when you label yourself, you're just limiting yourself in a sense.
Yeah.
I could call myself an engineer. I could call myself a filmmaker, a director, or whatever. we are all gods, children of the Most High God. So there's no limit to the things that we can do. So I plan on using science and technology to help out the Nation of Islam in a multitude of different ways.
Great. Well, being in the Ministry of Science and Technology, we definitely plan on working together and making sure that anyone that has an idea or a vision or a plan they would like to see brought into fruition to us to help build the Nation of Islam, we want to make sure that it's carried out. So I'm looking forward to that email I've been expecting about your ideas. And just just working, man, building the nation.
Yes, sir. I got one idea right now that we could do. I'm going to Ghana, inshallah, this August. I'm trying to shoot a documentary out there dealing with a lot of different aspects that include science and technology, but just in general, the condition of the children of Africa, both on the continent and the diaspora, the condition of the people, of our people. But also, I want to go to Cairo, Egypt. So maybe you and Jabril can come with me and we can document the analysis of the pyramids and all that. So if you guys are open, we should start working to plan that trip and make that a reality. Because we really could, we can present a lot of good information on that trip that our people need to see worldwide. I mean, there's a lot of conjecture about the pyramids of Giza. There's a lot of guessing, but from what is self-evident there is enough to change the reality for people who don't know anything about it, in terms of all of the math that went into just designing the physical structure of the pyramids alone. Not alone what Brother Jabril focuses on, like material science and how they chose different materials with electrical properties and so much more different physical properties, and what the pyramids could have potentially been used for. I mean, with the knowledge we have, we just scratched the surface of it. So I definitely, inshallah, I'm intending to go out there. So if you guys would like to join me, we can do a collaboration.
Oh, that's and actually, as a matter of fact, Egypt is one of my dream countries to visit. I love the history, especially as it relates to medicine and what Imam has done for medicine, and just being there in that environment, man, I would love to go. So we'll definitely set that up as a future plan. And are there any other ways that our audience members can contact you other than social media and your YouTube channel?
If anybody would like to contact me, they could email me at shaheed779@gmail.com. So SHAHEED 779@gmail. And I'll respond to your email with the utmost urgency.
Awesome. So, well, this has been another edition of the STEM Files on OMSTV. We are once again no longer on Blog Talk Radio. Before you leave, just hit that like button and subscribe. Also follow us on Instagram at OMS_TV. Once again, that's OMS_TV. To follow the company, Original Man Scientific, go to at OMANSCI_. Once again, it's OMANSCI_. And also visit us at OMANSCI.com. Once again, that's OMANSCI.com. This has been another cracking open, as my illustrious guest co-host would say. This has been another cracking open of the STEM Files on OMSTV. We wish you well and stay tuned for the next episode. Peace. Thank you, Brother Shaheed. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Peace.